Honestly, if this battle ends in sex, I don't know if I could call that inaccurate. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and next time on Deathbattle for the traditional Halloween episode, we have Blade from Marvel going up against Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I absolutely love this idea. This was in my top 50 most wanted death battles video, ranking somewhere around the middle, but that's still really high all things considered, and it's also one of my most wanted Halloween episodes. Definitely below something like Freddy Krueger versus Pennywise or Mysterio versus Scarecrow, but still, I was taken by surprise with this one. I have no problem that this is what we're getting for the Halloween episode, and also the Ismahawk episode. Like, the fact that this is going to be in live action, I think it could go so hard. Definitely be the best live action fight we've gotten so far. And I'm a huge Buffy fan, in case you didn't know. Obviously, I love Marvel as well, and it's a little frustrating that we're getting so many Marvel characters this year, I know, but honestly, I love this matchup so much and was so surprised by it that I can't even really care. So yes, I'm very, very excited for this. So as usual, let's start with the easy stuff. Both Blade and Buffy naturally have a lot of similar traits that come with this line of work, such as extensive weapons mastery, crazy fighting ability, enhanced physical ability to keep up with the undead, and even heightened sensory awareness. Blade's senses, however, are definitely more refined thanks to his half vampire or dhampir nature, and he's mastered more formal fighting styles and has fought better masters of combat overall than Buffy, who can honestly be more of an improviser at times. That being said, Buffy can actually tap into the skills and experiences of all the previous Slayers, which date as far back as prehistory with the first Slayer, Sinea. This eclipses the amount of time that Blade has been alive. I might honestly still argue, though, that Blade has a similar quality of experience just based on who he's fought, but the amount of knowledge and fighting knowledge and all of that stuff would definitely go to Buffy just for that alone. Additionally, both of them have some form of accelerated healing that allows them to recover quickly from minor wounds, but Blade's appears to be a bit more extensive as far as the deadlier damage. Speed is also not too difficult to analyze. Buffy and other characters like Willow have some feats of dodging or intercepting lightning, and there is the odd mystical or futuristic energy beam that pops up that could put Buffy at relativistic if you really try hard enough. But even then, Blade should kind of already surpass that just by virtue of being a Marvel street tier or slightly above. So at best, Buffy approaches that speed. At worst, she's significantly slower. And lastly, neither of these characters are specifically weak to the common vampire weaknesses, so neither character is going to be able to rely on those specific tactics. So that's the easy stuff, and that's all well and good, but the harder stuff revolves around physical power, special abilities, specific weaponry, and their resistances outside of resisting what can normally kill a vampire, of course. Buffy has gained a lot of temporary abilities or power boosts over the course of her franchise. I do not believe Deathbattle is going to be including any of that, but I wanted to make note of it because I sometimes see stuff get brought up for Buffy that realistically shouldn't apply here because she only had the ability for like a single episode. But aside from what we covered at the beginning, Buffy often has premonitions of the future, although this usually happens through dreaming, and she can shrug off fatal electric charges, resist hypnosis, and she can even have normal piercing weapons just shatter against her own skin now, which is actually pretty handy in this kind of matchup, but she obviously can't deflect any weapon regardless of deadliness. Blade also doesn't have the widest array of innate special powers, but there's still more to him than meets the eye. He can drain the blood of others, obviously, but he also has some shape-shifting talents, where he can transform into a more monster-like state with wings, and he can transform into some crazier things like a misty gas state. This makes him much harder to damage normally, and he can even enter someone's body while in this state and somehow explode them from the inside. Kind of crazy to think about. And along with his conventional healing, he can also resist the effects of vampire bites and stuff like soul manipulation, possession, some poisons, and some mental manipulation. And yes, I am aware of everything regarding Boy Thing and how it amped up Blade to ridiculous levels in the comics, but like when we talked about with Buffy and the stuff that came from external things, I I just don't think that this is going to be included. It would kind of be a pointless matchup at that point if it was. Their inventories overlap quite a lot as far as the basic stuff, but focusing more on the differences, Buffy of course has her scythe with a number of properties, including non-physical interaction, attack reflection, and presumably being indestructible to even magic. She's also got a lot of the standard fare like stakes, blades, ranged weapons, and sometimes even has access to other cooler stuff like brass knuckles, hammers, and rocket launchers. Blade has a lot of the common stuff too, but also has multiple swords, including an adamantium one, as well as various firearms, gauntlets, explosives, and a decent amount of Kevlar. He has used much stronger weapons in the past too, such as the sword Justiciar, which he doesn't have access to anymore, but also the breathing gun, which can be fatal to demons and angels in the Marvel universe. And if we are trying to factor in the lesser known items for Buffy, then I have to imagine that at least the breathing gun will be included for Blade as well. As far as weaknesses go, Buffy doesn't really have an exploitable one, but there is still one main drawback that Blade has being part vampire, that being the need to ingest fresh blood in order to survive. However, to say that this is a major handicap that would always make him lose a fair fight is very inaccurate. He can fight for extended periods of time without drinking at all. Even if he couldn't, or even if there was no way for him to reach Buffy's blood, he carries around multiple dosages of a special serum that gives him what he needs for about a day and allows him to heal from even crazier things compared to normal. So this is gonna do wonders for his stamina, and even though Buffy can fight for similar lengths of time, with Blade's ways of potentially ending the fight in a single hit, like his stronger weaponry or turning into the mist, he has ways of making Buffy's stamina a moot point altogether. But now is the time that we have to talk about physical strength and scaling, and I'll be honest, aside from tapping into past Slayer experiences, I think this might be Buffy's best shot at potentially winning. Granted, this will probably depend on how Deathbattle decides to scale her, since the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series can get very high in scaling, especially when looking at stuff like comics and novels, but we have to be careful how much of this actually applies to Buffy herself and when she's not being amped. A lot of people are already aware of the feat where Buffy and Angel have sex so hard that it blows apart much of a mountain. However, I am sad to say that this was done through a temporary amp and is really not consistent with her normal feats at all. There is also a feat where Buffy and Angel create a sentient universe, so to speak, that is also done through extenuating circumstances. I brought this up earlier in the video that this kind of stuff happens a lot in the series, and it's honestly kind of frustrating from a versus perspective. From what I remember, Buffy has directly fought enemies with at least city level capabilities, such as creating a city spanning storm. I don't know how likely it is that Deathbattle would scale Blade this high. I think you definitely could if you compare him to the right characters, but then again you could also probably scale Buffy a little higher than that by comparing her to the right demons. And nonetheless, Buffy's scythe was created to be able to slay a primordial demon after enough hits at least, so it should definitely be able to kill Blade. But even if Buffy does possess more physical strength, which I think is very possible, Blade could always just drink her blood to weaken her and strengthen himself when he gets the right opening, which I think he could get eventually. Ultimately, both of these characters definitely have the capacity to win, so I think it's really going to come down to who has the better experience, who has the better layers of defense, and who's just going to be able to get the job done faster. So coming to some kind of decision with all of this in mind, I honestly think that this matchup is pretty close, relatively speaking. They're even enough in a lot of the basic areas, and they do have their own counters and advantages. But unless Deathbattle scales Buffy to be a lot more powerful than I'm expecting, or she has some crazier stuff hidden away somewhere, then I just think Blade has more aces in the hole. He's almost certainly at least a little faster, if not much faster. He'd probably win a war of attrition. He's got more abilities and tools that I don't believe Buffy has any way of defending against compared to the other way around. And while Buffy's Slayer experience powers would definitely give her her a greater quantity of experience and allow her to match Blade's expertise, Blade has still fought way better hand-to-hand fighters. That doesn't change that. This is not going to be an easy battle for either of them, and I'm really excited to see if there's anything major that I've missed for Buffy or anything that could potentially change things. But at least for the time being, I think I have to cautiously side with Blade. But as always, I want to hear what all of you guys have to say. Who do you think is going to win? Are you excited for this episode? Are you as excited for it as I am? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you could too. That would be amazing. Would really help my channel out. But no matter what, thank you all so much for watching. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.